Hey, everybody. Welcome to another show where we're very excited to talk to a Canadian pet food company that we think they're doing really innovative, great things. And that's what we want to highlight today. And we're going to talk to one of the founders of this company. What do you think, Dr. B?
I look at their website. Absolutely amazing what they're doing. Highly impressive. Wish I was one of their dogs eating their food.
I know, right? Yeah. Canadians
Absolutely.
can be proud. This is made in Canada, and they get to feed their dog there's another really good brand out there, and there aren't that many. Without further ado, I want to introduce Michael Giller, the founder of Smack Pet Foods. Hey, Michael.
Hello, Rob. How are you?
Morning,
Good, thank you.
Michael.
Great. Thank you so much for having me on. I can't say thank you enough for the compliments that you guys have for the food that we make. We put all of our life's effort and passion into making what we feel is the best food for dogs, and we owe that to Dr. Billinghurst. Um, you know, it was his research and his work, his books that he put out there that sparked what we created as Smack today.
Is that right?
Well,
Absolutely.
Michael, the invoice is in the mail.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, what can you tell us what specifically was like? Obviously, he's got a lot of research out there. What would you say was the driver of that? What drove that research into the actual product?
Um, First off, it was a sick pet, and our dog Zorro at the time, he had cancer. He had cancer towards the last, towards his senior end of life, right? So he's a Great Pyrenees cross, and he developed cancer around the year, like about he was 8 years old. We had been um, very health minded ourselves. I'm almost 40, but going back 30 years, I was drinking wheatgrass juice shots every morning that my mom gave us, and so we were very health minded for us as people. We didn't know enough about health for dogs as much as we did for people, nor nor did we kind of implement what we knew as, yeah, health-minded people for our pets.
Yeah.
However, a dog trainer that we knew of Dr. Billinghurst's work and turned us on to his research. And that was our aha moment that basically told us that essentially what we understand to be good for people, as biologically appropriate for people, works the same way for dogs. In that probably cornmeal, probably, anonymous meat meals and things like that um, are not the best things for dogs. And that was our aha moment where, Dr. Billinghurst's work sparked everything, 20 years later, that's still going strong.
Great.
Michael, you having said that, in my going back 20 or 30 years, I was doing a radio program in Sydney, and immediately following me was a naturopath, and he had a dog with problems. And I remember he came to me and he said, "I've been listening to you," and I'd listened. We would listen to him on the way home as we drove home, because we were going from Sydney to Bathurst. It was a trip of about 3 hours. Anyway, he said, having this problem, I said, "What do you feed your dog?" Well, this dog had bowel issues. He said, "Oh, the good dry food." I said, "Michael, here you are recommending real food for people, and you're feeding this dreadful food to your dogs." And it was that, for him, was the aha moment too. Oh, so you know, you are not alone. This happens all the time.
Hey there, this is Rob Ryan. I just want to say how much we enjoy making this content for you here. And if you are enjoying it, would you like our video down below? And would you subscribe to our YouTube channel? It sure does help us get discovered by more people like you who need information like this. And also, down below in our description, the top link is to our trial pack. We hope you'll order one for your dog so your dog can have fermented superfoods that give them nutrition like they can't find anywhere else. Hard to get nutrients that are easily absorbed. Thank you very much. Now back to the show. Yep, it just takes a little, and it's different for everybody. It just takes a little. It
Yes.
takes a minute. Sometimes it takes a tragedy like a dog cancer or something for people to wake up. You know, the other thing too is I had a husky. He was a mixed breed dog as I grew up, and he lived to 14 on horrible kibble, like pedigree. Well, I want to say the name, but horrible kibble that I think is horrible. And we didn't know any better. And but he lived to 14, and he that's a good life. He was genetically blessed, I suppose. He didn't die at 10, but did he have a great quality life? I was talking yesterday to a veterinarian, Dr. Judy Jessic, and we were talking about, well, you know, for those people who go out and they party the night before, they eat, they go at a party, they eat, they drink, the next day you don't feel so hot. What if that was your everyday feeling, the way you felt? You just didn't have what it took to run at an optimal level, and you just felt sluggish and horrible all day. If you felt that way, would you want your dog to feel that way, even though your dog looks okay? It's just a lower baseline that your dog is living in. Is that a great quality life? I think it isn't. I think that, I strive for something that's more optimum than that. So my dog just feels great, loose, joints feel great, gets up, ready to go, feels like a dog.
Rob,
Absolutely
just
agree.
briefly there. Tell me about that. It was a husky breed that you had.
Yeah, he was a husky collie.
Okay, because I'm looking at some research now, looking into the genes that help digest starch, and those dogs that have very few of them, I'm postulating that they are going to be healthier than the dogs that have a lot of genes to digest starch, because basically, and what we have now is a pet food industry that says because some dogs have more genes to digest starch, that's a reason to feed more starchy foods. And I'm saying it's exactly the opposite. It's
Yep.
actually a reason not to feed it, because you're actually giving them greater chance of absorbing poisons into their body, basically,
Oof.
in the form of starch or sugar. So anyway,
Mm.
let's get back to Michael. But that just raised that thought in my mind, that and it's a
Yep.
very important thing, I think, this genetic background of our dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Sorry, Mike.
completely agree. Absolutely. So one of the first glowing testimonials that really reinforced what we're doing was from a vet and a vet tech, their husband and wife team. And the vet tech asked me to do a little presentation on our food to their vet tech class. And what was why she asked me to talk about our food to her class was, the classmates, they requested it. She had fed Smack herself. And after I did the presentation to her class, she said, Michael, um, our I think it was a Bichon Frise, um, and this dog was on its last legs. It had all kinds of inflammation. It had no spark for life at all. It was laying down, basically bad breath, bad fur, and no energy. After 2 weeks of feeding Smack, what she found was that her dog had fresh breath, its coat looked revitalized, and it was chasing squirrels. So it went from, absolutely inert, didn't have any kind of, joie de vivre. And now this dog, after 2 weeks of eating Smack, was running around the yard, and they couldn't believe it. They said, how come, like what's in this food? We've been feeding, rhymes with Bill, diet, vet recommended, and switch to your food. And like my husband is like, whoa. It was like, well, thanks, like I'm glad that we could do this, because that's exactly the kind of response you want, not just, well, this costs more. When am I going to start seeing some effects? And when you go from a dog that looks like it's on its last legs to chasing squirrels again, I
Yeah.
mean, you can't help but feel like you're on the right track.
Yeah.
So we've never wanted to go from that, only to improve. And that's like, uh, to this day, because of our ability to source, we're getting essentially all of our ingredients organic, whereas we had to get what we could, which was available, choosing organic where it was available. But these days we're actually having an easier time with our sourcing, and are always opting for the better quality whenever that's possible. That's why we're very confident we're making, food with the best quality ingredients in the world. Yeah, and thanks, Dr. Billinghurst, for your inspiration.
Well,
That's all I got to
what
say.
you're doing is why it works so beautifully. And I'm just thinking as you're talking, can you imagine if a drug company could come out with a drug that could produce those results? That would, the results would, it would be stupendous. It would be in every newspaper around the world, and that drug company would make so much money. But because it's real food that cannot be patented, we can't put something on it that this is ours exclusively. It doesn't get advertised, not sufficiently anyway.
Absolutely.
But that's our job here. This little effort, this first small step that we take every day, the light that we try and light to get this information out there. And it's wonderful that you're demonstrating with really super quality products how this really can work. So that's fabulous.
You're
Thank you.
here. You're here. So I was noticing, like, you guys use the words superfoods like we do. I don't know how you feel about the word superfoods. I feel like it's a little overused, but what can you do? Like, customers understand the term, and I feel a little weird about using it because I don't know, it's just become a thing. But the things that you have and the things that we have and ours, they are superfoods. But now everything's like eggs are a superfood, and rightly so, rightly so.
Hey
But
Rob,
yeah,
super and actual are interchangeable.
yeah. I mean, and I
Actual
think,
food, that's the
yeah,
difference.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I can't help but feel connected to you in some strong way, because through supply chain, getting all organic is a challenge, and getting really high quality organic is a challenge. And where we're going, Michael, is and I think you will um, probably want to you'll probably confirm that you're going here too. Is we're even reaching above organic in looking at biodynamic and, of course, regenerative. Sometimes regenerative is just as good as organic certified, but better. The biome of the soil is better. It just doesn't carry an organic certification. Um, so we've got all these challenges that we have to work through, and then you have to get a constant supply of it. It's not, you can't just get, you know, a batch of kale for 6 months and then not have it for another 6 months. You have to, these are challenging things that we have to get through, as companies that provide what we provide.
Oh, I agree completely. And it's one of the reasons why we're actually going to be launching on a pretty large endeavor to be growing these ingredients ourselves.
Good for you.
We want to essentially vertically integrate our company as much as possible so that we can have the control of that process.
That's great.
And growing those ingredients ourselves is a huge part of that. And we find that this kind of solution is the most sustainable solution that we could. number one, it would be local, and number two, it would, you know, essentially utilize waste products of our process, which would be the capturing of that water and the capturing of our you know, food waste to convert to you know, nutrient teas to grow the food
Compost.
ourselves. So that's exactly compost tea. Yeah.
Good for
Yeah.
you. Good for you. That is a challenge I'm not ready to take up. I just think that we need to, I 1,000,000% appreciate and commend you for that. That is the way I would like to be, but I just would rather know exactly who I'm dealing with. I just took a trip last week to a regenerative ranch named White Oak Pastures. And I literally went on the ground. I was with the animals. I touched many of the animals. I saw exactly, it's a beautiful operation. And so, you know, we throw boots on the ground, exactly, you know, where we do business and who we do business with, and we know them. And we believe that being able to shake the hand of the farmer and the rancher and look them in the eye is the way to do business. And we're coming out with a treat with them actually really soon. Hopefully, a series of treats. So um, I'm so with you. I think, you know, knowing your supply chain and being vertically integrated, boy, that's great. Good for you.
Actually, while
Thank
you're
you.
talking, I'm thinking the farmer is the most important person we have on this planet. And in our country, we're doing everything we can to destroy our farmers. It's terrible, by rules and regulations. What we should be doing, of course, is teaching or helping farmers, because they are the custodians of the land. So they need to be, as Rob has just been visiting this farm, they all need to be regenerative farming, because the science shows that in 50 years, if we continue the way we are, we will have no soil.
I
And you can forget
agree.
about
Yeah.
everything else we're worried about, because
Yeah.
including the carbon dioxide, which simply should be back into the soil where it belongs, through proper regenerative farming, the proper use of pasture and livestock, etc., etc.
Yep.
This is where every political push should be for the future of our planet, to help our farmers, because this is where the turnover occurs. This is the interface between carbon dioxide and nutrients and people and waste and the cycle of life. So I'm just applauding people like the people who run White Oak Pastures for paving the way. And every one of us who are involved in dog food, animal food, whatever, should be thinking in those terms. And Michael, if you're going down that path, then I'm hoping this is the way you're thinking, because this is the only way that we can make our planet better for the future of our children, our pets, everything.
Absolutely agree. And, you know, this might be a controversial kind of concept in business, but if all of our, not even just our customers, but if we didn't have any customers, and if people were, you know, growing food themselves and able to kind of understand the foundations of what make, you know, a good food, and how to, you know, grow perennials and grow your own food. And if people were able to do that themselves, I really wouldn't be complaining, because I think we'd be probably living in a bit of a better world, right? You wouldn't have any customers, or maybe you just have a few customers, but the world would be a better place for everybody.
Michael,
Yeah.
we only need enough customers to keep us going and set an
Yeah.
example, so that in other communities, people can do exactly the same thing. None of us need to own the world. We
No,
just need
yeah.
enough. And this is the way we need to move forward too. Local is important. Local is very
Yeah,
important.
much
But in the
agreed.
meantime,
Much agreed.
I guess if we're just starting out and we're trying to make a difference, then we have to be able to spread what we do and what we are able and know, to spread it more widely. But eventually, this is what the earth would aim for. Local communities, because that's less expensive in terms of shipping product around. It's always seasonal. It's always there and fresh. But in the meantime, we have to do what we do.
Absolutely. And I think through all of this, there is more people are learning about what it takes to either be a healthier person or to raise healthier animals. And through that process of what we're doing, people are learning how to do things either for themselves, or they can appreciate that it takes a lot of effort to do what we're doing. And we've had customers who have said, okay, I love what you make. I was a Smack customer, and then I started trying to do it myself at the grocery store, and I realized just how much, work went into finding these ingredients and, doing it like what you do. And so I thought, you know what, it was actually a pretty good deal what you're offering, considering the cost of food at the grocery store and having to prepare it all themselves. So, while some people may not have the means to go from A to Z, in one step, and it's a learning process. At least they're learning along the way what goes into it, and step by step as time goes on, they can learn how to do it themselves as well, right? So it's a educational process. Where we are today didn't happen overnight, right? Like, it was when the Smack name came out, it was 2007, and it's 16 years later. It's a huge process, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, but we've learned a lot about what it takes to source ingredients, how to grow ingredients yourself. I'm undertaking that myself. And through marketing what we do, more people know about healthier options, and some people might decide to do it themselves, which would be great. More the merrier.
And Michael, you're also educating them in their own health, which is fantastic, because that's the hidden agenda I always found in my work, that people would ask me, and I heard hints of that as you were speaking. Does this apply to us? And of course, it does.
Yeah, I mean, that's the gift of dogs. They teach us so many animals. They teach us so many things for ourselves too. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell us a little, for example, I was looking at your pork recipe. It said pork in bone, I think it said. So is that ground up bone with the pork?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So tell us about your process. Tell us a little bit about what's unique about what you guys do, because you have really, I mean, the ingredients are great.
Yeah. I think one of the most unique thing about our process is the ingredients themselves. So to take it a step further in preparation, we use very, very low temperature dehydration using heat pump technology. So because we use a heat pump technology, we're able to dry at lower temperatures. It extracts the water a little more quickly compared to a totally passive system. And we also grind the bone very finely. It's easy to absorb. Probably the most unique part about this whole thing, I would say, though, is the ingredients. Without the ingredients themselves, it would just be another dried food. So I think probably the most important thing is those ingredients. So we try not to mess with it as much as possible, because of course, as you increase the temperature, bioavailabilities go down. And I mean, that's pretty common knowledge. Even going back to the NRC textbooks, they're always talking, well, as the temperature goes up, bioavailability goes down with any kind of protein or any kind of, for most fruits and vegetables.
Great.
So can I ask a question, Michael? When you're making a product, are you using the whole animal, or how do you source in terms of the animals that you're using?
We use the whole chicken for our chicken recipes. We use for the salmon recipe, whole salmon. Our rockfish is whole rockfish. Our pork, we don't use the whole animal. We use pork, which would be the pork trim, which would be, all those really nice cuts that go to grocery stores, even the tenderloin, and then things like that. Our bone is ribs. Um, we use spleen, tongue, kidneys, and liver. Those are and heart, and those are organs that we use for the pork recipe.
Great.
Very good. Do you use eggs at all?
We do not use eggs.
Okay.
I have had issues with sourcing
Ah,
eggs and with our egg quota, and there's all kinds of crazy regulatory and issues around eggs that it simplified the process if we didn't use eggs,
I think
because we
I
do
think in Australia
export.
our egg situation is much different to you over there. So I understand.
Yeah, it's poultry is a very, very controlled kind of commodity here, where in order for us to export to the US when we first started the process, we were getting chicken, which was grown in Manitoba, where we are, and Ontario. The process was this, because of the quota system, this chicken had to get sent down to the US where it was processed, and we purchased it from those processors in the US. This is organic chicken. It would be shipped to us so that we could ship back down to the US. Um, it was just
That's
nuts.
incredible, isn't it? That's
It is it's pretty terrible. There was no allotment of chicken for Canadian companies unless you were prepared to buy this chicken, which is sent from Canada down to the US. And
wow.
so, fortunately, we've worked something out with a federal supplier here in Manitoba, a really large one, and we are employing their facility to, take care of all that chicken here in Canada. So we're at a stage where we're able to, maneuver those kinds of things where before these companies wouldn't even give us the time of day to talk about something like that. So,
Wow.
That's one benefit of being large.
yeah, it's I can't tell you how many times we've been turned away just because it was like, well, this isn't going to move the needle for us, so why would we do this? So,
Well,
it's
I think it's a tribute to you that you keep pushing forward because having been in the business we were in for 15 years, I know the headaches involved. It's quite enormous. I was very glad to get out of it and just talk about it. So well
yeah.
done for what you're doing.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I mean, it's our entire team, my brother, and everybody here that is making this all happen. It's yeah, it's fortunately we're at a point where we're able to have a team, and it's not just myself kind of banging my head against the wall. There's a lot more smart people here that have helped to kind of facilitate some of these things that are helping to make this, from kind of a boutique kind of one man show to a company that is able to facilitate larger deals and, facilitate the employing of federal abattoirs, for our own use. That's like, it would be basically unheard of. It would be a pipe dream, say 10 years ago to think about that even. So it was always, in our minds, one of these days, are we going to be able to do these things, and how are we going to be able to, bring our food to more people with the kind of challenges that we have sourcing, the limited ingredients that we're working with. I mean, it was even harder back then to get chicken for our production than it is now. So it's, funny how things change. But yeah,
Well,
it's
that's wonderful
that
because
kind of business world.
it's important to have that product so consistent when you are that big. And I guess that with that comes the ability to make the lever move for other people. So that's wonderful. I was thinking too that you must being able to source a lot of those organic products like the fruit and vegetables. It must make your own life better in terms of being able to get that for yourselves.
Absolutely. I've made lots of smoothies with the ingredients that we use. And some days, I would just be, taking a scoop of, organic spinach powder, putting that in a cup and just shake it and just drink that. That was my lunch.
So your dog food is keeping you healthy. That's wonderful to hear. And it's
Yeah.
a testament to those people who want to buy it that they should know that you're actually eating the product that the dogs eat, which is, and you look pretty good, pretty healthy.
Well,
Yeah, I
thank
mean,
you. Yeah.
I was gonna say, how in the heck did you make it through you've been doing this for a while now. How'd you make it without any gray hair?
Oh, I've got some with
Man,
my first kid.
oh, that'll do it.
So yeah, it was within that first year I was like, "Oh, hey, my first gray hairs." Yeah. Thanks, son.
Right.
The
So,
sleep schedule and all of that is
The no
just, yeah,
sleep schedule.
yeah, exactly.
so Michael, where do you see your business or the pet food industry or the raw pet food industry or real food industry going? What's your thoughts, your visions?
My thoughts and visions regarding the pet food industry is this trend is continuing. I feel like people are becoming more informed in this day. Um, there's more people kind of being activists for this kind of lifestyle, whether it's a healthy lifestyle for people or for pets. And I think, one of the funny things about what COVID did is with as much of a disruption as it was to everybody's life, I found that people ended up researching health foods for themselves and for their pets and healthier options. Um, some people had more time for that kind of a thing, and with dogs being, more dogs ending up at home, new pet owners are wondering what's new. So there's new what's out there. Um, I feel like this trend is continuing, and I feel like there's going to be more healthy options, more competitors for companies like ours, and some of them are legit, some of them aren't. Um, you know, Seeing how this has all played out over the last 16 years with Smack was there have been a lot of companies that kind of popped up and they were more gimmicky than authentic. And there's a lot of formulators out there, or sorry, not even just formulators, but really just strictly marketing, right? Where it's like, okay, so let's take these dry, bits of potato flake, throw it in a bag with some dry chunks of meat, shake it up, and this is, a dehydrated option. And I don't think, potato based, foods are necessarily the best dehydrated dog food options.
Yeah.
But yeah, having said that, yeah, there's some kind of fakers out there, and there's some authentic ones, which is the whole spectrum of human life, right? So people are always going to have an option to either eat cinnamon toast crunch for breakfast fortified with vitamins and minerals, or eat, a whole food meal, whatever that might be. It's avocado, eggs, and, some whole grains, or, You know, the Cheetos version of you know, nutrition, where it's, you know, essentially just fortified with vitamins and minerals. And, you know, synthetic vitamins and minerals aren't what you know, makes us healthy. But, you know, science, not even science, it's that's not really science, because I feel like if you look at the end result, a scientist should understand the difference between, you know, one that's thriving in health and one that is, you know, ticking the boxes. You know, pulse check. You know.
Sustaining life versus sustaining joie de vivre.
Yeah, exactly, right. And we've seen that with a lot of our customers, where they go from, you know, uh, living to really living. So
Yeah. Well, some people don't even know they're barely living. I mean, they're hanging on, they're white knuckling it, and they're in and out of hospital doctor appointments, and the same with these, you know, many dogs. And you know, when I first met Dr. Billinghurst via phone consult, I took home this amazing, beautiful puppy that we think basically, even though I took him to 4 conventional vets, they couldn't tell me he had mites,
mm,
basically. And we even did a skin scraping, which is horribly, like,
painful.
sad. I didn't even know what that was when and they told me. And, so they couldn't identify it completely, and we think that the when I got him, they had bathed him, and so they moved the mites around, and you know, it from the mother, and it got all over. Anyway, I've never seen a dog more tortured. A puppy, he was a puppy, but a dog more tortured by itching than this dog. I mean, it's like times 10 allergies. It was horrifying. So I took him to 4 vets, and a veterinarian named Marty Goldstein, Dr. Marty Goldstein, the great Dr. Marty Goldstein.
Yep.
I reached out to him and his brother Bob, and they referred me over to Dr. Billinghurst. When I changed the food from this quote high end kibble, I was one of those people that said, "Well, I'm going to get the high end kibble." I didn't know. This is back in 2000. Um, the change was within 4 weeks. It was cured. It was like I couldn't even believe it. I was hacking up turkeys and organs, and I couldn't even believe what I was doing. But it was easy, and it was a permanent fix. It was a miracle. So, you know what we can do with food is really truly a miracle. I have seen it in my own life. I've seen it in people around me and animals around me.
And
So Rod, that
question.
sounds like your dog had, I didn't realize that, your dog had almost sounds like demodectic mange.
Yeah, that's what we eventually thought in the third vet, but
Mm.
these vets weren't great. I went through them real quickly. The last vet, I famously tell the story that it was infamously told that he literally said to me, well, your dog's just gonna have to be on steroids the rest of his life, I think." And I went, I didn't know a thing about any of this stuff. My idea of health was, you know, like I go to the gym, I have steamed broccoli and chicken, all this boring food that was, you know, and it was through my dog that I realized what organic was, what holistic medicine was, what naturopathic. I I this dog in the first year of having him blew my whole, you know, mind open. So
Fantastic.
yeah, yeah. And and we were doing some therapies through Dr. Marty and Dr. Bob Goldstein. But really, it was the food that we all thought did the trick, which is crazy, you know?
Well,
Yeah.
with particular demodectic mange, it's an immune incompetence to a
That's
large
right.
degree.
Yeah,
And
because it's the immune system fighting off the mites because we all, you know, we all have mites. Dogs all have mites in their
Mhm.
eyelids and all. I learned all this stuff, you know,
Yep,
and it's the
Out of
balance.
balance. Yeah.
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah, I mean, crazy, you know? But here we are. We live in a world where it says, hey, you know, just throw these drops on the back of your dog or spray your dog with this or give your dog this pill or, you know, inject your dog with this. That'll do it. That'll teach those bugs. And really
Yeah.
it's just this imbalance that
Mm.
that our dogs are dealing with.
So I'm
Yeah,
wondering, Michael,
absolutely.
do you get many testimonies to with dogs with different problems? People telling you the problems have disappeared. I know you mentioned one earlier, the dog that was very down and then suddenly started chasing squirrels. But do many people actually bother to write to you and tell you, or come to ring you?
Absolutely, all the time. One that sticks out in my mind was actually another vet clinic. And it's the testament to the mango that's in our food. At least that's what the vets attribute it to. And this dog, the vet clinic made this testimonial. They said, hey, this client doesn't have to, uh, ex- um, de- squeeze the sebaceous glands in their dog's rectum any longer. So they said, after introducing chunky chicken, thanks to the healthy fibers in the mango, it just naturally happens.
That's
So
awesome.
they don't have to go into the vet any longer to do this, pretty unpleasant task.
Which costs a lot of money.
Yeah,
So, so the vet described the improvement to fibers in mango. I would have said it was the fairies at the bottom of the garden that produced it.
I think it's the bone in the chicken.
yeah.
Rob, I suspect you're more right than I was just then.
Well, I'm learning from you here,
It's the whole spectrum of feeding real food that suddenly brings everything back into balance. Whether it was the fiber in the mango, the bones in the
Yeah.
chicken, the whole
I
box and dice.
Yeah, I wasn't a first person, unfortunately for this one, but you know, it was definitely an improvement. I don't know if it was the mango or like what you were saying, it's the meat and the bone,
I,
but yeah, there's a whole host of benefits from.
this is the way, unfortunately, our veterinary profession thinks that it's going to be one thing
Quantify.
that
Yeah,
fixes it. They don't have this ability to think organically and
holistically.
holistically. And I mean, WHOLIST, it's the wholes of the situation, because everything in science has to be ascribed to one thing. And it
Yeah.
and that's fine if you talk about physics, but biology just does not work
Yeah.
that way. And this is a really missing element from everybody's thinking these days. It's got to be this one thing.
I
No, it
agree
ain't.
with you completely, and that's why it was hard to answer that question about what is so unique or what is the one thing, because I like to think about things as a whole, and it's hard to necessarily uh, distill or quantify things sometimes when it's not in the exact number of this or that. It is the whole thing that gives you the story, right? You can't
Mhm.
read a sentence out of one book to get the whole story. It's everything from beginning
Yeah,
to end, and change a little bit here, a little bit there, and
Yep.
but it's the whole story.
yeah.
Well,
And
what unfortunately happens in too many clinics and veterinary practices is this whack-a-mole game. So some head pops up, you knock it down with this little drug or this little even in the don't get Dr. Billinghurst talking about these nutritionists that are they're playing with ingredients like zinc and things like this, just like the pharmaceutical industry is playing with drugs and compounds. But the whole is the way to go. If you just focus on the right top, the top level of health, it's really not that you don't have to chase your tail and worry about, oh my gosh, is this in perfect proportion, is my dog missing this, is my dog missing that. When I'm hearing about this anal gland issue with this dog, I'm thinking, you know wolves and coyotes don't really, in general, have anal gland issues. They are probably going out and they're eating other things. They know that they have to go out and, with a good formed stool, it'll push out that it'll essentially express the anal
Itself,
gland.
yeah.
And so we're just focus on good nutrition, everybody. That is where you need to be. And all of this other stuff never becomes, or usually doesn't become, an issue. And if it does, it's really easy to address. You can't, you can't, if you don't deal with the nutrition and do a good job of that, God help you.
Well, the whole
As
is
simple
greater
as
than the
that.
sum of the parts, Bob. That's that's what it's about. And that anal gland, for example, it's got a mucous membrane on its internal lining, and that has to be healthy. And that again is all dependent on what you're feeding, quite apart
Yep.
from the poo coming through to express it.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
So-
It's true.
So, Michael, you do have a lot of testimonies to the value of your food in turning health around.
Thank you. Yeah, we do. I think the one that gets me the most is the fresh breath. It's usually it's 1 or 2 weeks, and the breath goes from pretty distastefully smelling to wow, it's better than mine, right? And I can agree with that. Dogs that eat smack never have foul breath. It's like, how do you get away with not having to brush your teeth every morning with Colgate, and you just wake up this way?
Why did you name it Smack? We haven't even addressed that yet.
Oh, that's a good question.
Thank you.
Yeah, that I have my mom to thank for. We were having a real tough time with figuring out what kind of name. Um, I was actually pretty boring in what I thought would be a good name. I wanted to, name it after my mom, right? Uh, it was, it'd be like Emily's dog food. That's what I wrote on the first packaging
Well, that's a nice
because
name. That's not boring. I mean, boring would have been the dog food company. That would have been a horrible name. But that's nice. You want to, it's like, name it after your mom. I think that's great.
yeah, thank you. She taught me, almost everything. She gave me the best foundation for health education. My mom had uh, always given us, our, you know, healthy whole food supplements, like wheatgrass juice. She would just crank that stuff up in the morning in this, cast, what's it called, a masticator, or what's
Yeah.
the, yeah, and acupuncture as a young kid, still go for that, cupping, all that fun stuff. Um, you know, it our mom was basically, is, I shouldn't say. I'm talking about thinking it in the past. My mom is still with us today.
Yeah.
But
Good.
she is always, 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 done as much research as, anybody possibly could into, the health fundamentals, homeopathic medication. All my life I've, been taking these things.
Yeah.
And so I named it after Emily. So one day we're sitting around wondering what's a more catchy name than Emily's dog food, right? Because I wanted to kind of give homage to my mom, as an inspiration. And she just said, "How about Smack?" And I was like, "Oh my God, that's it!" Like Smack, right? It hit me just like that. I was like, "Wow, all of our, toiling, trying to, brainstorm, thinking of names, that's all behind us. That's the name for sure." So, we went to our lawyer, trademarked it, got things going as quickly as possible from that perspective, and the rest is history. So,
That's
yeah,
great.
yeah, she just came up with that name, and I was like, wow, way to go. This is amazing.
Well, it speaks a lot about your mom because number one, she's enlightened from what you tell us about the way you grew up. And she also, a lot of people would have jumped at the chance to have their name on a dog food on a package.
Yeah, good
I'm
point.
not one of those people. I wouldn't want my name on it, but a lot of people do. And your mom is sounds like a really good person. I would like to know.
Absolutely. Love my mom.
I'm
Yep.
just wondering if anybody's trademarked Mum's dog food.
That's a good one. Yeah.
And
Anyway,
then Dr. B, he put because he developed a reasonable amount of fame in this spot. So his name was on, but he used this whole barf thing. So he's really got, I mean, this is a really down to earth guy that he
Yeah.
called his, I mean, and talk about the confidence that you have to call your food barf. I mean, that's some confidence. Am I right, Michael?
Absolutely. It that name it grabs your attention. And
Yep.
I've known that, of that expression, since the, call it early uh mid mid 2000s, call it 25 2005 when I became familiar with the barf diet. And I mean, everybody knows that name now. At least if they don't, they should.
well, Michael, I'd come home from enough parties as a young man, feeling awfully sick and barfing for my dog. And I knew the dogs loved that sort of thing. So I
A
didn't
dog's
feel uncomfortable.
breakfast.
Yes, that's right. But
They really do. They do.
this doesn't happen that way anymore. A much more sedate lifestyle.
Yeah.
So, Michael, tell us what's coming up for you guys. You're obviously a well-established, high integrity brand. So what's on the so you're looking at vertically integrating a farm. What else is on the horizon for you guys?
Yeah. A new facility, next year. We have it's a multi kind of staged development of a new factory that we're building next year. So that's expected, we're expected to break ground in June of
Great.
2024.
Wow.
That's really exciting. That's brilliant.
And no
Yeah,
small feat.
No,
no, it's on several acres of land, and we're building out about a close to 100,000 square feet facility over the course of a few years in a
Wow.
couple stages. And we will be releasing a botanicals blend as well, which uses ingredients like quinoa sprouts, turmeric, shiitake mushrooms.
Good for you.
Yeah, and we will be releasing those recipes, hopefully spring of 2024 as well.
Mhm.
And we're working on a red meat recipe as well.
Good.
so
So
that's brilliant progress,
likely,
Michael. It's testimony to the fact that if you can do that, there's enough people that have confidence in your product. So it must be really good. That's wonderful.
yeah, no, thank you. It's we hope to keep this steam kind of going into 2024 and beyond. Don't take anything for granted
Mm.
at all. You can say that we've been extremely fortunate. The world's been good to us as far as the feedback that we get for what we do. Not everybody agrees with our approach on pet food, but not everybody agrees. So what, right? We're comfortable with what we're doing. We know that we're making pets healthier. We know that we're educating people about healthy foods and what makes healthy foods. And the reality is that it's quite simple, and it starts with high quality ingredients and the foundations of understanding what dogs are meant to eat. And not all breeds are created equal either. I've learned some fascinating things about, uh, you know, livestock guardian dogs in the Middle East, in places like Turkey, where their diets aren't exactly, the barf diets that, we feed our pets here. And they have just a very, very different lifestyle. These Congo dogs, Anatolian shepherds of the Middle East. They have a very different diet from what I understand historically, and they eat even now these kind of it's like a milk porridge. I
Hmm.
forget what exactly it's called, but it's they survive mostly on scraps and a kind of a milk porridge,
And of
Wow.
course,
and they
that
live.
milk would be sourced beautifully from, I'm assuming, probably goats more than cows.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know whether they heat the milk, but if it was raw, and the grains would be much healthier than if you think about dry dog food, what that is, and you think about the grains that would be in the food that they're feeding. Plus, those dogs would be eating, they'd coprophagic animals. They'd be eating the poo from the animals that they're looking after. You know, you cannot compare that with processed dog food today.
Oh, not at all. And it's so fascinating. I was just couldn't believe it, right? I believe it, but it's like, wow, right? These dogs are like 36 inches at the shoulders,
Yep.
like close to 200 pounds, living 16 years, 20 years of age. Some people had, I was reading, traveling to Turkey and talking to these tribes and this long history of these breeds living well into their, past 15 years of age, no hip dysplasia, and just thriving in these mountains. And I thought, like, wow, you can't pigeonhole things. And that's the kind of what, I've learned through these years is you got to leave some room for variation and to adapt. And not all dogs are the same. But, as far as what we do, we have a very, I base it on a very trusted foundation of what Dr. Billinghurst has done for, decades. And I thought, if we don't veer from that, we'll be okay. And, we have maybe our own take on it, but it's validated through now 16 years of testimonials, customers who are on, like we have customers who started buying our food back in 2007 who are still using our food today.
That's
And it's
great.
like, wow, I just like thank you. Like
That's
we'll
awesome.
we'll keep it
Michael,
going, we won't we won't let you
part of my
down.
part of my philosophy is if it ain't broke, don't try and fix it.
No. You
Yeah,
know,
I
the
agree.
the example you brought up of the Kangol, and I think we have on our YouTube channel, we have a Kangol, if I'm remembering right, his name is Pesci. And he is on our product, Gussy Scott, and he is a big boy, and he think he's 14. I'm going off my memory. And his joie de vivre, the word you just used, she used, the owner of Pesci,
Hmm.
and his joie de vivre went through the roof, and he's now wanting to take 3 walks instead of 1 walk. I can't remember what the video. It is a while ago that we recorded it, and his bringing this into his life is really, and she makes his food every day. She's on it.
Yeah.
This is a great person that pet parent. And then the other thing is that you said that it struck me was, um, you know, it's interesting how the industries, the veterinary industry, the pet food industry, try to get us to believe certain things, which is like, a dog is 7 years to every 1 human year. And it's interesting, like that is I do think about that often. Like, it's definitely not the golden rule for all dogs. Is that a dog that's on kibble, and has the pet food industry tried to sell us this number,
Expectation.
to lower our expectations? And those things have always bothered me. These one size fits all rules, and the expectations we set for health and longevity and wellness, and um, you know, you've got these dogs that don't have hip dysplasia. Well, why do dogs have to have hip dysplasia? And I know that, this goes back to when I was young and I put my first dog to sleep as a child, my childhood dog. I was 15 and I was thinking, this goes by like this. How do I was, since the age of 15, and I'm 52 now, I've been obsessed with anti-aging and extending life. And so, that kind of thing, I think if you're focused in the right areas, and it has to start with nutrition. You're going to see a lot of surprises. Your dog doesn't have to age at 7 years to one human year, et cetera, and have all these weird ailments. And, your dog does not have to be a statistic of cancer. There are ways you can stave off the nasties, these horrible things that most people just seem to have.
Totally agree.
It's important for the
Absolutely.
veterinary industry, Rob, that we keep feeding them pet food.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, look, it's everywhere. What we do to ourselves, as people, we kick it's a brilliant business model, because you make this super cheap product that's processed. It's super cheap, high profit, super cheap for the consumers still. You sell a lot of it. You create downstream, all the downstream costs everything's deferred. So all these downstream costs, nobody can really attribute, unless they're really awake. Nobody can contribute it to what they're doing or not doing. So it's this brilliant model where all the deferred costs happen years later, and people just go, gee, I don't know what happened. Gee, I don't know why my dog has this or that. It's a business model. It's not a model that you and I want to be in,
It
but
almost sounds like a conspiracy.
oh, I know, right? Well, I'm a conspiracy therapist, Michael.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no,
I've been trying to argue that it's not a conspiracy for a long time, but it's getting more difficult.
yeah. Yeah,
it's
it's all that's pretty well connected. Yeah.
yeah, it's all it is. Honestly, it's just there's this very, very serious profit motive. And,
Mhm.
Yeah.
if you wanted to be in the profit game of pet food, you would be doing that product. What you do is incredibly difficult to maintain standard, to make it. And, what we do is, we don't order, nothing we do is simple. We do everything by hand. So, we want, we're in this game to really move the bar up higher, and so are you. And that's why we're so happy to have talked with you today, Michael.
Thank you. I appreciate that you guys would have me on to discuss what we do. It's been an uphill battle for sure. Uh, Smack has had a lot of resistance in that it's not something that everybody was ready for.
Mm.
And people would always say, like, hey, you guys have the food of the future. And it's like, well, we're making it today. So,
Yep.
so customers came one by one, one by one, one by one. And throughout the years, we've developed a reputation that we make very high quality food. A lot of people would agree that it would be the best pet food in the world. That's certainly what my goal was. I didn't want to put anything out that I didn't feel like this was the best, right? It had to be. That's the only way that I could be behind something, is if I was confident that we're making the best food, and it's the best for the dogs, not just, you know, the best in my mind. It was trial by fire. We've had to, you know, adjust things along the way sometimes, right? So we've gone from, say, we used an ingredient like millet seed, we switched that to organic pumpkin.
Yep.
You know, we're not opposed to making improvements for the, you know, for the betterment of our food, but we feel like we have a great foundation. And, you know, thanks to, like I said, Dr. Billinghurst, for your inspiration. You know, without people like you, this wouldn't be possible. You know, I don't see a world without your influence in it. In that, you know, people have, you know, they trust what you do, and you have really made an imprint in this world for the better. So thank you for, you know, sharing a space with me. You know, I'm just a dog food, you know, company guy.
Well, thank you for saying that, Michael. I'm listening to you talk again, and I'm thinking your mum brought you up good.
Oh, thank you.
And I can attribute my mum to the same sort of thing, because much of what she was is in me and my thinking. So our mums are so important, and yeah, you were brought up good, and it's showing
Thank you.
today in what you do.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Well, on that lovely note, hi to Emily, and it's Emily, right?
It is.
Right. Okay,
Yes.
good. And hi to Emily, and Michael, it's a pleasure to meet you, and thank you for your time today.
Indeed. Thank you.
Thank you both so much. Thank you.
Yep.
Great
And
speaking with
everybody, you can find Michael's pet food at smackpetfood.com. Go there, take a look at what they've got, and have a great day, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.